VMware Cloud PKS Policy Framework Demo. In this video, we're going to take a look at the policy framework that VMware Cloud PKS offers. VMware Cloud PKS has a resource-centric policy model that is hierarchical in nature and allows IT operators to provide very fine granular access to cluster resources. VMware Cloud PKS policy framework starts with the organization. Within an organization, you have folders. Folders can be a logical set of users that are grouped together because they are aligned on a specific business unit or geography. Within a folder, you can have another level of hierarchy called projects. A project can contain one or more clusters that belongs to different users. Policy applied at the root of the hierarchy are inherited across its branches. So for any policy that gets applied at the org level, then all folders, projects, and cluster resources within the org will inherit this policy. Similarly, if a policy is applied at the folder level, then all projects, smart clusters within the folder will inherit the policy. Going a bit lower in the hierarchy, if a policy is applied at the project level, then all small clusters belonging to the project will inherit the policy. And finally, policy applied at the cluster level applies only to the specific cluster. Look at how this works in a live demo. Within my org, I have 5 folders. Each folder is grouped based on different business units. Now let's take a look at the Acme Web Services folder. Within Acme Web Services, I have different set of users working on different projects. For example, some are working on the front end, some are working on the databases, and some needs a dev environment to test their application. And within each project, I have different clusters, smart clusters. Let's create a dev group and apply this new group to the Acme Web Services folder. And I'm going to assign myself as the member of this group. Once the group is created, you will go to the folder and click on the View Policies. And once you open the Policies window against the resource, there are 2 sets of policies. One is the inherent policy, and then you also have a direct policy. The inherent policy are set against its parent. To edit the inherent policy, you must go to its parent and make the modification there, and all the changes will be automatically propagated to its children. Under the policy folder of Acme Web Services, I am going to create a new rule binding. I'm going to add the cluster admin role with the new group I just created. And once you click Save, you will update all the projects and all the clusters underneath of the folder. For those that prefers to manage the cluster using the API or the CLI, the good news is that all the things I just demoed through the UI is also available through the CLI and the API. To demonstrate to you how to configure the policy using the CLI, the first thing you do is to log in to the Cloud PKS. Once you're logged in, then you will set the folder and the project, and then you will list the clusters underneath that particular project. And once you list the project, then you will define your authentication information, which basically set up your kubectl configuration, and also you would then go ahead and trying to configure additional rows similar to how we did it earlier using the UI. And once the rows is set up, then you can use the native kubectl command to retrieve the cluster binding information against the row. Now let's take a look at that. Start logging into my environment, and I encourage everyone to watch my previous video. To log into my Cloud PKS account, what I need to do is I need to obtain the information, the UID of my work, as well as the refresh token. My previous video has a section that reviews on where on the web interface you can obtain those information. Now once the information is obtained, what I'm going to do is I'm going to supply that information, and I'm going to log in. I'm successfully logged in, and once I logged in, I'm going to set my folder to Acme Web Services. Now I could set the policy at the folder level, but I already showed you guys how to do that in the previous UI demo. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually set the policy on the cluster itself. So in order to do that, I need to set the project, and I'm going to view the clusters I have in this project, which is only one cluster. So the next thing I do is I'm going to add myself to the Smart Cluster admin role. And as you can see, it added a direct policy against the cluster dev. And I have a lot of inherent policies as well. And those policies were set against the parent. This was the policy that we set from the earlier demo from the UI. And you can see that the group dev is also mapped to the Smart Cluster admin. And now once this is set, I'm going to then log into my Kubernetes cluster and confirm that the policy for the cluster admin role has been propagated all the way down into the cluster itself. So to do that, I simply issue the kubectl role binding command and against the cluster admin policy. And you can find my user ID listed under the cluster role binding. And this concludes my demo. Thank you so much for watching.